Hello, beautiful people. Today I am talking about the Taurus New Moon, which will be occurring this April 27th, 2025. That is a Sunday. And the theme of this new moon is driven by passion, creating that which is real and strikingly beautiful, finding meaning in life's challenges. To start, we're going to define Taurus, and I would just like to make a note that I'm a little bit sick right now, so excuse me if you hear anything related to that. So, what is Taurus? I am using a definition from Vibrational Astrology Association, and they define it as unfolding from within, a gradual changing process. Taurus is a fixed earth sign. What I really like about the vibrational astrology definition is that they don't rely on all these symptoms of the sign. They really distill it to the essence of what it is. And I think that's really useful because, unfortunately, when we use symptoms, it can bring out negative connotations, and then unfortunately that gets wrapped up. But that's not really what it is at its essence. So, at its essence, Taurus is a process of unfolding from within. The person listens, feels, and instinctively senses what to do and when, and cannot be rushed or slowed down. Taurus is inclined to a kind of Taoist perspective, tuning into the life force evolving organically within them. Taurus likes change, but gradual change. Change on their terms as they're feeling it out and instinctively sensing what to do and when. So, let's look at the chart. As we know, a new moon sets the tone of the month. And right here, I'm going to start by looking at the sun aspects, and then I'm going to look at the moon aspects. And the sun and moon, according to this chart, I'm using equal house system, are in the 10th house of career, public image, as well as what your heart and soul want to bring out into the world. All right, so let's start looking at the sun. Now, for this first point, I'm talking about this T-square shape overall, and that involves the sun and the moon. And so on the chart, the most noticeable thing is this red triangle, where we see in the blue arrow, Mars is opposite of Pluto with the purple arrow. And then between the two, forming that top peak of the triangle, is the sun and moon. And this is a T-square. And the significance of a T-square is that there is the possibility for tension and fighting. Oppositions give opportunity for possible conflict. Squares give opportunity for possible conflict if the drive that needs to be fulfilled is executed poorly or rushed or doesn't consider the other things that are happening. And so anyways, there's a need to resolve or act on the energy. And given that we have these two planets here that have a need to move, push, and are obsessive, that's Mars and Pluto, it can create a greater possibility for conflict. So the midpoint planet in the T-square has a lot of influence in terms of how the energy is expressed. So that would be the sun and the moon. Those are the midpoints planets. And if the expression of that energy is positive or if it's negative. And so that's something to keep in mind with this Taurus new moon, is that the way in which you channel it can play out with this other maybe tense energy you feel. So, talking about the sun and moon, it is in Taurus and it's in the 10th house. With that, the past is being brought into present view, and it shows that we may have been having thoughts about the work we want to do or our public facing self, and thinking about the process of the natural unfolding in that area, and how including that mentality of the natural unfolding in your work may be coming up here. It's coming up in your present awareness, and it may also be reminding you of similar situations from the past. So something to note is, does this remind you of another time? Anything like that. So with the sun squaring Mars and Leo, and Mars being in the first house, It's going to bring up a clear and present force to achieve, a drive to do something tangible, something real. And that square really does want action, and Mars is the planet of action, and so there really is this strong drive to do something, and so it can be impatient to get something done. It's not about planning, but by doing it. So notice if you feel more impulsive, and you may feel compelled to work on something that will improve yourself, with it being in Leo and it being in the first house. And that by improving yourself, it will show up in your work. So maybe you feel that it's necessary to have some kind of self-improvement in order to make progress in where you want to go professionally, or what you see yourself doing for work, or that's meaningful for you to work on. And then with the Sun squaring Pluto in the 7th house in Aquarius, this shows that this can show up as a compulsion or an obsession to be a part of a collective social order or social identity. And it might be a group that you're growing or seeking or attaching to because it's important to the work that you want to bring out in the world. You may feel a strong mission or a sense of destiny and purpose, and that feeling may operate from instinct and passion and isn't necessarily based on logic and reason. But you feel driven by that. And like we're seeing, okay, Mars and Pluto, they're really these driving, action-oriented planets. But again, with Sun square Pluto, you may act on this compulsion or obsessiveness relating to social order and social identity. It may come up the most in your one-on-one relationships or your shared goals with people in your one-on-one relationships, and talking about this urgent sense of a mission that affects your group identity. And so the opposition that we see with Pluto and Mars here, the tension is between developing yourself or diving into the collective, and the work you feel called to bring out into the collective, because it's showing up in the 10th house. So with Mars feeling this need to develop something in yourself, to improve it, and Pluto also similarly feeling mission-oriented, it can maybe be a feeling of tension between, can I do this thing and develop this thing that I want to do for myself, or can I do this thing that I want to do for my relationship or my group I belong to, group I care about? And you might feel like you have to choose between the two, and that could be a source of conflict in terms of feeling they both matter, but not knowing how to show up in both, because both feel really important, and both feel really important in terms of the work that you want to do and what you actually want to bring out into the world. So you might recognize that you have things to develop in yourself. You might recognize that a relationship or a community needs your attention, or you might feel activated by their engagement. And again, you might feel torn between the two. So I want to remind you that the Sun and Moon are in Taurus. And so again, the way the energy plays out is all about allowing the natural unfolding. And where Taurus energy can get misaligned or misused is if it's provoked and feels cornered to act. Because what is Taurus? Taurus is about the gradual unfolding, gradual change. And so sudden change, sudden provocation can definitely misalign that energy. And so if you're feeling provoked or you're feeling cornered, you may not be channeling this energy wisely. And it would point to the need to reassess and also to cool off. And I would just really nail that in as a main point here is this is like I've already said, there is a sense of being driven, even with a lot of purpose and meaning. And that can give us a sense of urgency that we have to do everything right now. And we can even feel quite judgmental of other people who are not doing that, judgmental of ourselves. And again, the way that Taurus expresses itself most essentially and healthfully is this gradual unfolding. So if you feel this need, I have to do everything today or now, that might be an illusion. That might be you going to a false conclusion just because this energy is pushing you. And so that can be one of the traps. And I really recommend, if you're noticing yourself like, I have to push, I have to do this, take a moment to just say, oh, wow, I notice this is happening for me. And yes, it's about things that really matter to me. And I also am aware that at this time, there's this balance that needs to be made between these two pushing forces. And I know Taurus energy expresses itself best when there's a gradual change and it feels natural. And when you're really tapped into Taurus energy, you're going to feel like you know the next step to do. It doesn't come from urgency. It doesn't come from being provoked or cornered. It comes from feeling like it's the natural expression. And also, we're going to look at Venus in order to get an idea about how we can have tools about reassessing provocation or feeling threatened if that comes up during this time. So, moving on to the moon side of things. The moon is also squaring Mars and Pluto. And the way that is showing up with moon squaring Mars is that we may have feelings of or be reminded of times before when we wanted to accomplish something and felt a great drive to achieve our goals. So your focus is on achieving something, and even emotionally, you're feeling driven to achieve something. The goals here are about self-development and that naturally unfolds when you're in a good environment and how that helps you grow in the work you want to do. Your actions may be inspired by observing others and what they're achieving, and you may notice yourself feeling judgmental of people who are making excuses about why they can or can't do something, or of environments that don't support the natural unfolding you want to occur in your work. And then with Moon squaring Pluto, you may feel compulsive eruptions of emotion or powerful concentrations of past feelings that erupt forcefully into the present. And they may come up the most in your relationships, or your relationships might set off those feelings. And these eruptions are not controllable, and you may be perceptive or sensitive to hidden agendas or motivations that have to do with social order or social identity. And it may come up by someone that talking about something about social identity, and it brings out this emotional eruption from you, or you might also feel triggered or really suspicious of hidden agendas that are occurring in the social order. And so the energy here is discovering the hidden motivations or situations in your lives or around the lives of others that is impacting how you want to show up, the work you want to do. So are there ways in which the current social order is threatening the work that you want to do? And for many people, at least in the United States, they're experiencing many sudden changes with the new administration and feeling that the new social order is affecting the way that they show up and want to show up, as well as the nature of the current economy. So overall, with the moon side, there's a desire to achieve something important for your sense of development and how that impacts your work. And then there's also the chance of being emotionally eruptive in your one-on-one relationships that has to do with topics about social identity or social order and how you think that impacts your work or your ability to do your work. All right, so we, of course, have to acknowledge Mars and Pluto since they're such a big contender in this. And I look at the aspects of the two because the aspects really tell us the vibration They tell us what is playing out. All right, so first let's talk about this opposition with Mars and Pluto. And the first thing that you'll notice here is that Mars has more aspects than Pluto. It has relationships with Venus and Saturn. Now, Pluto only has an additional relationship to Neptune. Mars also is having a relationship to Neptune. And so Venus and Saturn are going to play a role in how Mars acts. And also remember, Taurus is ruled by Venus, so it's going to be an important influence here. Another thing I want to note is that the second major shape in this chart is coming from Venus and Saturn. So we see the big red triangle, and then we see these 3 blue lines, and they're all coming from Venus, Saturn, and possibly the North Node too. And so they're affecting they're like the secondary influence here. So let's talk about Mars opposing Pluto. And oppositions here, that's what's happening with that line. Oppositions create a polarity between the planets, yielding an interest in sharing or conflicting with others. Now, Mars and Pluto, like I was telling you about, they have a lot of drive, and they're driven by passion. So the vibe here is explosive, intense power that comes out in bursts, since it would be impossible to sustain it continuously over a long period of time. So you might feel energy to push and do something, but it's probably not sustainable. It's probably only going to last for a period of time. It's often channeled through a project where it can become fully engaged and immersed. And so for you, how might it come out? What project might that come out in? May it come out in your self-development, ways that you're growing your self-image and what you want to bring into your work. Then it also could come out in your one-on-one relationships when you talk about social order and social identity and how that is affecting the work you want to do or the dreams you have about your work or the social order. And Mars and Pluto needs to push the boundaries, force limits, and see how far it will go and can go. It needs to be able to engage in intensely focused periodic activity and work where it can push hard and engage all its resources. And I want you to note that this opposition is going to last until May 11th, 2025. So almost 2 weeks. Or I would say 2 weeks. So just notice for that time period, do you feel pushed to do something? Do you feel like this burst of energy to get something done? Or do you feel the sense of mission that might be all-consuming, or you get swept up in something? The next thing I want to note is Pluto's other aspect, which is a sextile to Neptune. And this sextile to Neptune gives a sense of mission and purpose, Neptune being about our dreams. And together, it creates this obsessive need to follow a dream or vision, having a strong sense of mission and purpose, a deep sense of meaning and destiny for being alive. If pressured to pursue someone else's path, you might experience some kind of deep frustration. And so the dream or vision becomes the mission and the purpose at this time. And what I'd like to note is that Neptune is in Aries, and in this chart at this moment, it is in the 9th house. And so it being in Aries, the dream right now is about authentic expression, being authentic and honest. That is what people are being drawn towards. That's what they want to create. And so it might be Pluto sextile Neptune. It might be about having a mission, about creating something, creating a social order that is more authentic and gives us some kind of higher purpose, higher knowledge, and being able to express what we're curious about and have a kind of deeper meaning to life than the current social order provides us. And you might feel really driven by themes like that. For the Mars side, I want to look at its relationship to Venus, Saturn, and Neptune. And what I'm suggesting here with it trining Venus, trining Saturn, and trining Neptune is that those planets are going to help to bring out something more positive with Mars energy influence here. And so Mars trining Venus, we're going to feel a need to accomplish based on an attraction to the beauty that is alive, visceral, and real. It brings a deeply rooted feeling of being actively alive, awake, and connected to natural elements such as wood, stone, strong colors, natural fibers, etc. And it needs to create a life full of richness in nature. And so with it being Mars in the first house, we might be driven to develop something in ourselves that is tangible and real and beautiful, that has to do with something that has to do with our higher values, about travel, the thing that we're driven to do or act on. We're driven to make something beautiful, and we want it to be imbued with this sense of higher meaning, higher purpose, and we also want to make it tangible. So it's not just in the air out there, but it's embodied in our life. It's something that we can feel and interact with. And then Mars trining Saturn gives the sense of doing the dirty work, which means having the force to accomplish the essential things that need to get done. And so it gets to the basics of the job at hand, and it brings precision and efficiency to do the job and do it well. And it finds meaning and gratification in life's challenges. And so this is another important thing here, is that Mars is willing to, the influence of our self-development is willing to actually grapple with something difficult and really get into the work that needs to be done. And because of that, you can find the meaning and gratification in life's challenges. And I think that's even a really powerful intention to set with this new moon, is to see that meaning in the challenge, but also see the beauty that can come out of it. Another key theme is Mars trining Neptune, and that's the ability to see magic in everyday life and having the force to accomplish one's dream. So there's a need to express the magic of your dreams. Neptune can see the magic in everyday life that most people overlook, and this charisma attracts others to aid in achieving the dream. If the pursuit is steadfast, honest, and shared with others, success will most likely result. If frustration sets in and the magic is lost, the unfolding of the dream can be stifled. So there is a need here to share with other people. So I think this is also another hint at how we can not get overwhelmed by the energy of Mars opposition. Pluto is it's by working with other people and by other people being attracted to our dreams and what we're seeing as meaningful, that we can actually make it tangible. We can make this beautiful thing tangible. We can make this thing that we're willing to act on and do the hard work for tangible. But it's all about cooperation with people instead of it becoming a push and pull of, I need to develop myself, or no, this other person needs something from me for this higher value, social order thing that I feel is equally valuable and important. All right, and so the last planet I'm going to look at is Venus here. And Venus is aspecting one other planet I haven't mentioned, which is Uranus. It's sextiling Uranus. And so on top of that, Venus is also conjuncting Saturn, Neptune, and the North Node. And so it gives this sense, like what we're attracted to at this time is sincere, magical sensations and creating positive impact that leads to a sense of fulfillment in the area of higher learning that connects you to something spiritual or gives you a better sense of what's out there, maybe being curious of other ways, other perspectives or other ways of living. And with Venus sextiling Uranus in the 10th house, there is an attraction to spontaneous and creative natural unfolding that helps with what you want to project into the world. And so it can be an attraction to beauty that is rhythmic, exciting, and spontaneous. And there might be sudden attractions to knowledge or learning or even travel that improves your work goals, your 10th house goals of what you want to project and what you want to bring into the world. And it may come out by just being playful or listening to music or attending concerts. And when it's expressed in its true form, the energy is very positive and vibrant. But if it's blocked, so this ability to feel this kind of spontaneous beauty and act on it and enjoy it, if it's blocked or denied, it may manifest as depression. So it is alive in the moment, and even little surprises can enable you to experience life in the moment as being exciting and electrifying. And so I think that this gives us the sense of being attracted to making something that is tangible and real, having the energy to do it, but also being inspired by the natural unfolding and how maybe things that you might get inspiration in the work that you do that kind of lights you up, and it gives you this higher knowledge, higher learning, maybe even inspiration to explore something new or travel somewhere new. And when you can kind of bring that into your current awareness of, I have this desire to develop myself in a way that can help me do something really important that I want to do in my work. And I also am feeling this desire to show up in groups or relationships in a very mission-driven way. There's an important thing there. I think that Venus can help balance us in reminding us that we're getting insight all the time. And when you connect to that Taurian energy of, opening your senses to what's there, you can get a lot of inspiration that really delights you and doesn't have to be about choosing one side over another. It's about recognizing that this is an embodied, alive experience, and that when we do feel pushed to do something that we're provoked or we're cornered, we might not make our best decisions. Overall, with the sun and the moon in the 10th house in Taurus, we're getting this emphasis on our work and what matters to us and what we want to bring out. And the sun and moon are that midpoint between the opposition of Pluto. And so really where we put our attention and our emotions and how we allow them to kind of naturally unfold can really influence how we react to maybe pressures around us to choose a side or to choose ourselves over a group or a person, and to just remind yourself that, hey, let me just let it play out. I know I might be feeling this, but let me let it play out. And also, with Mars opposition Pluto, it's an exciting energy too. It's not just all like, oh, be careful, be careful. Like, there's this sense of we have something meaningful to do. We're driven to do it. We're driven to develop ourselves or our collective in order to bring about this dream of something authentic, of something meaningful and purposeful. And it's exciting to feel driven. It makes you feel alive. And so it can also be really exciting in that way. But the thing to watch for is, do we conflict with people? Do we act when we're cornered and provoked and threatened? Or do we have the bandwidth to say, oh, wow, I notice I'm feeling this. And if I'm feeling this, it's probably a sign I actually kind of need to go into, I actually need to find the meaning in the challenge. I see that I'm challenged right now, and there's meaning here. And the meaning isn't just I need to defend myself, but there's some kind of higher wisdom, higher purpose. There's some kind of beauty here. And if you can be open to the natural unfolding of that beauty, in which you want to make something real, you're driven to make something real, then you can see the meaning in life's challenges. You can see that this tension isn't without merit. It can actually transform you into something very meaningful that you want to bring into your work. And you're doing it on your terms by choosing to not act on provocation. And still honoring that you might feel that you're on a mission. You might feel this drive to act on something. And going back into the Taurus energy, the Taurus way of gradually unfolding. It's okay if things don't all happen right now. It's okay if it doesn't all happen this month. But you might get new insight of things that you want to do. And that can set the tone for the next 6 months until the next Taurus full moon. All right, guys, that was my reading for the Taurus new moon this year. And if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, comment, or subscribe. It helps the channel to grow and to reach more people who this can help and can benefit from this message. And it's really great to see if this resonates for people or what they're going through. I'm always really curious. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one.